Well, hey, Green Architecture. Today we are talking lesson 1.8, which is dealing with fundamentals of construction. I'm going to talk you through a PowerPoint, maybe add a few details to this. This PowerPoint will be available in um, your module as well. So if you want to listen to me talk your way through it, you can. If you would rather read through it, those are options. I'm giving you the option of actually seeing this first. At the bottom of a lot of these slides, you'll see that there are some notes. Get down to one that has notes on it. Yeah, here we go. We get down into these like slide 14. There's notes down here that you are going to find helpful when you start filling out your worksheet that goes along with this. So kind of gives you a heads up when I mention you looking at the notes section, that's where you find them. So I'm going to go full screen so you can see this a little bit easier. Get my mug out of the way a little bit. There we go. All right, so we're talking fundamentals of construction. We've been talking about measuring and kind of getting a pretty good grasp on that and using our creativity to do some designing. You designed your dream bedroom. We've drawn some things like your living room, your own bedroom, put in doors, windows, furniture, things like that. Now we're going to start talking about the construction side of things. So worksheet goes along with this. You'll be filling that out as your assignment. So the plan, watch through the video with me. If you want to then open up the PowerPoint by itself and work through the worksheet and then submit it, we're in good shape. All right, here we go. Fundamentals of construction. Now, the first part we'll be talking about is what is construction. We'll talk about different classifications of types of buildings, parts of a house, systems in a house, wall types, roof styles, and then types of architectural plans. First one, we're talking what is construction? Well, basically, it's just that process of building something that can be used for many functions. And maybe it's to live in, to learn in, to work in. This could be a parking ramp in a big city to park cars. It has a purpose, has a function, that type of thing. Types of construction you might see. You're going to see a lot of different ones here. There are some different things. If we look at family-oriented construction, you're probably talking about a house. Community, that could be several things here. Community could be maybe a part of, schools might be part of our community. All right, so that could be a part of that. State, we might think of state and federal buildings where our Congress people and our senators, president, governors, things like people like that work. Religious might be like our churches. You might see some examples of steeples in churches. We might have trade. I look at this one, and I guess I'm seeing the Wall Street idea, maybe where business and trade takes place. Sometimes we consider trade as far as a little store. Growing up in Waseca, we had several downtown hardware stores on Main Street. Now they're pretty much all gone, but that used to be a pretty common thing. And in some places, you'll still see those. I saw a little store looked almost identical to this when I was in downtown Milwaukee last summer. Kind of cool, old-fashioned, yet it's right in the heart of the city. Recreational type construction. Think of perhaps a sports stadium might be a good example for that. That could be a part of our community as well. Education. Think of a school, things like that. So just some different types of construction that you'll see out there. We start talking about a couple different things. I'm going to move my picture out of the way a little bit. We have commercial construction. Basically, that's when 50% or more of the floor space is used for commercial activities, businesses, schools, offices, churches, gyms, libraries, museums, all those types of things. That's what we call commercial construction. In commercial construction, there's some different rules that apply because typically more people are there. On a normal day in the high school, think about what we have here. This is a commercial building. 900 students, probably close to 100 teachers and support staff, maybe even more. So we're probably over 1,000 people here. And of course, more than 50% of it is used for, in our case, school. We look at residential construction. That's the process of building structures that serves as a dwelling place for a home, where people live and reside. This can be a number of different things. We'll look at some pictures on that. Residential construction basically is saying, as compared to this one, a building with more than 50% of its floor space for commercial activity. In this case, less than. But its primary place is that's where we live. That's where we reside, things like that. Types of single-family homes, different houses you might look at. We'll talk about architectural styles later in our time together here. But you see some different examples of houses that we might live in. Other single-family, you think of apartments. I think that's going to be more residential than commercial. However, because it's so many people, they have to abide by some different rules. Some unique different types of apartment and condominium types of things you might consider as far as residential. Might have large mansions or estates. Now, we don't see many of these in Waseca. You might find one or two on Elm Avenue or State Street, but probably nothing quite to this side. The large mansions and estates, I think of Georgia when I think of the mansions. Some of the estates, I think of the European countries and so on. Specialty homes, an example that we give of that might be the White House where President Trump and his wife and Vice President Pence live. That might be an example of a specialty home. Then we start talking about the different parts of a house. This will be part of your worksheet you'll be filling out. The different parts consist of things like the foundation, the floors, the walls. There's a bunch of systems that we'll talk about, and then the roof to protect us. So we'll break down each one of those. First one, the foundation. Foundation is that structural system that transfers the load of the building to an area of the ground. So you've got your concrete usually makes up our foundation. We've got floors or roof, everything on top. It transfers that down into the ground so it's stable. So if a car drives by, your house doesn't shake. Train rolls by, hopefully your house isn't shaking too much. I live on the railroad, right near the railroad tracks, and sometimes when the train goes by, my house shakes a little bit. Even though I've got a foundation, it does shake a little bit. Floors, typically floor framing is horizontal loads are carried. So in other words, we're standing down on the floor. That's that horizontal level, okay? Think of the horizon, we think of horizontal. It carries the load of us standing there or the furniture out to the beams or the walls that go down into the ground, supported by the foundation. We have different wall types. Load-bearing and non-load-bearing are very common. We start talking about load-bearing walls. Those are walls like this, major walls that would support a roof or a second floor, things like that. Usually as you go around the room, that would be like the wall right behind me. That one is more of a, this is the wall that has the window and the glass in. Looks into my back room. Okay, if you can see my little picture. That's a non-load bearing wall because that's just a wall that was put in to block out the noise of the back room. Now, if we go the other way, I've got a wall up here. This is probably a concrete wall, the front of my room. That may support the ceiling or the roof that sits on top of it. Systems of a house. We talk about systems. We're going to talk about 4 general systems of plumbing, which of course would be like our water-related things. Electrical, things that help us with lights and powering our computers, charging our phones, things like that. The heating and cooling system. Hopefully you've got a heater or an air conditioner, depends on the day which you're using. And then, of course, the roof system to protect us from the outside. So we'll break each one of these down. So our types of plumbing systems, we have sewer management. So when you flush the toilet, you run water down the drain. Where does that water go to? It goes down and out, but it has to go somewhere. Those are our sewer pipes that take care of getting the water out to be treated and then recycled in some cases, or some cases put back into our Earth's water table. We have drinking and wastewater, okay? So we want to take a drink out of the faucet. What do we do with that? We have to have special treated water for that. And then the wastewater, what do we do with all that? So those are our plumbing systems, basically your areas there. Water supply for fresh, and then wastewater going out, and then sewer management for the waste and maybe the water runoff from rain and snow and so on. Types of electrical systems, all things included in that would be things like your television or cable, internet types of services, will all kind of lumped together. The appliances that we have, the heaters, the lighting, things like that to keep us comfortable in our homes. Energy, I gotta move a little picture out of the way here. Energy sources for heating and cooling. Most common, I think we use things like oil an awful lot. Electricity, of course, natural gas. If you live in town, your house is probably heated with natural gas. Coal is a primary fuel supply that creates a lot of the electricity that we use. Had gotten a visitor a couple years ago from a local business called Steel Waseca Electrical Cooperative, and they're out of Owatonna, but they supply electricity to a lot of the rural communities. Well, their electricity comes from coal. Okay, we use coal that we burn that to create the heat through on turbines, and typically their coal burning plants are up in North Dakota, and then they transfer the electricity down to us by heavy electrical lines. Of course, nuclear, somewhat of a debatable energy topic. Very efficient. The problem there is the waste and the risk from all that type of thing. And then we start getting into the green energy sources. Remember the course that we're in is called Green Architecture. We're going to finally start talking about some of the green aspects. So we start talking about things that are sustainable, things that don't go away. The wind, we have wind every day, right? Okay, so we have wind as a renewable energy source. Solar, our sunlight. We see a lot of solar panels throughout Sitka County. You can almost go anyway, north, south, east, west, you're going to find things like solar panels. Geothermal, the idea of that, we use the underground temperature to keep our houses warm. Thinking of geothermal, the temperature under the ground is usually, you go down about 6-7 feet, and the temperature is about 50-55 degrees. Where geothermal comes in is if you have a hot day and you've got nice cool air, if you have pipes down there and running fluid or air through the pipes, it's cooling it down to that temperature, then you can just push some of that into your house to cool it down. Opposite of that would be winter time when it's 10, 15, 20 below zero, and underneath the ground is like 55 degrees. We can plumb some of that warmer air up. Then we don't have to heat up from, say, 55 degrees up to 70. That's our comfort zone. Moving on, hydroelectric would be, of course, hydro would be our water supplies. Many of the cities the bigger cities in our area, the Mankato's, Rochester, Minneapolis, St. Paul, they're based on rivers because that was a great supply for electricity way back when they started planting the cities. And then biomass, we might consider biomass, bioenergy. Maybe we're using up food waste products and maybe using the heat energy from that to power things. So different types of energy sources for heating and cooling. Our roof systems, the purpose of a roof in our house is really it's to protect us. Protect us and our buildings from the outside, whether it be cold or rain, snow, whatever it might be. Just think if we didn't have a roof over our head and it's raining out, we're going to be pretty uncomfortable. Likewise, you think of this picture with the snow on the ground. If we didn't have a roof to keep the heat in, it's going to get pretty cold, and in the summer, same way. Roofs come in many shapes, and our next slide, we're going to look at a lot of the different roof types. Oftentimes, we describe houses by their roof style. We start looking at some different roof styles, okay? First one is a shed roof. Basically, it has slope, or it's sloping in one direction. That's our shed roof. Called that because oftentimes you have a little shed or even a big shed, and they'll put a one angled roof on that. Real common in our area, a gable roof. It has slope on two sides. These little triangular peaks in the end, those are called our gables. So we might have gable roof. Hip roof, also very common in our area. It has slope on all four sides. The disadvantage sometimes of a hip roof is you don't have as much head space upstairs. If you have a second level house or a story and a half house, your roof line, it gets gets you sloped ceilings in your bedroom and makes it hard to walk in there sometimes. We look at some houses have, it looks like a gable roof with a triangular gable ends, but they put what's called a dormer on them. A dormer. Looks like a mini roof coming out. Oftentimes there's a window in that area. My house that my wife and I live in has 2 dormer windows on it. Flat roof, like the school that I'm in anyways, has a flat roof. Flat roof is a house or a building that has a roof with less than a 10-degree slope to it, so relatively flat. You have to make it stronger to withstand the snow load that we might see in winters in Minnesota. Gambrel roof kind of came over with the way of the Dutch settlers years ago, but a gambrel roof kind of hopefully reminds you of a barn. Okay, very commonly used. You maximize your roof space. If anyone's a farmer, you might think of that. What goes in the upstairs of a barn oftentimes? It's hay. And we want to have extra headroom up there so we can stack the hay high. Gable and valley. So you'll see the gable roof like we have here, except for we've got 2 gable roofs where they meet into a valley. It has to do with the shape of the house. See, it looks like a T. And we might do the same thing, hip and valley. So we've got a hip roof, so it's got slope on all sides, but now we've got the valley between where the 2 of them meet. So those 8 different roof styles: shed roof, gable, hip, gable with the dormer, flat roof, gambrel, kind of a barn roof, gable with the valley, and hip with the valley. So those are 8 different roof styles. Moving on, if we kind of glance at this picture, we look at this picture, you can see several examples of roofs. As an aerial view, this may be like a business or a warehouse. You can look here. That is a gable roof. We've got a hip roof in this area. It's like we've got a flat roof here, and another gable in this area because it's got slope on all sides. Another gable roof. This might be a flat roof or a shed roof, but you'll see a combination of different roofs. Here we've got the gable, but down on the edge we might have a shed roof to keep the water from puddling in front. It runs the water off. All right, so there's different roof types you might see around. Then we start getting into the different rooms, common rooms that you might see in a house. We'll get into each of these. And this one just kind of shows how they're color-coded. And we'll break that down a little bit further here in residential homes. We're going to look at living areas. Our living areas are typically things that we spend our relaxation hours or basically our waking hours in. Might be our family room, our living room, our dining room. Those are considered living room or living areas. We have sleeping areas. Typically our bedrooms, of course, that makes sense. If you've got a bathroom that is dedicated to a specific bedroom, like your dream bedroom suite that you made, you had a dedicated bathroom, okay? Private bathroom can be considered part of the sleeping area, okay? Next one is a service area. Service area could be things like, of course, our kitchen, where we have the service of preparing meals, cleaning, things like that. Laundry room, again, servicing, cleaning things up. Public bathrooms, in other words, a bathroom that's available for everyone to use in your house, would be part of that service area as well. You might add on your garage space because there's sometimes considered garage space. Might have a workspace, parking your cars. Those are all considered service areas as well. And let's see, I have one more. All right, so if we kind of look at, no, I don't, just these 3. We have the living room area. Which part, in what area does each room belong? The living room, that's part of what? Our living area, okay? How about a bathroom? Well, like we said, if it's a private bathroom, it's probably part of our living area. If it's a public bathroom, probably part of a service area. Master bathroom, there we go. Now we're back to a living or a sleeping area. Okay, just our standard bedrooms, of course, sleeping area. Kitchen, if we have a kitchen area, where do we have the kitchen on this one? We got to look closer right here. The gray area is our kitchen. That, of course, would be a service area. Our dining room, can you guess what that is? Dining room, that would be our living area. Okay, and our family room, again, part of our living area. We spend a lot of our leisure time. Laundry room, much like our public bathroom or garage. That would be our service area. And basement, if it's not finished, typically we might consider that more of a service area because it might be for storage. You might have that little workshop or something down there. If the basement is partly finished, in most cases, a finished basement, you probably have a family room or a game room or something like that. That most commonly would be considered part of a living area. And then the garage, as I mentioned earlier, a garage would be part of your service areas. Patio, a lot of times our backyards have patios. I have a sizable patio in my backyard. And to me, I always look at that. That's an extension of my living room. So that means I would classify my patio under the living area. You have an office area. What might we consider an office area? Maybe you have a study or an office at your home. That would be probably more of a living area because it's kind of your, not always necessarily relaxing, but it's where you spend a lot of your waking hours. Library, probably something along the same lines, a living area. All right, so it gives you some ideas of how you might classify different rooms in a house. All right, so how is green energy used? Solar. We might use solar for heating our air and our water. Solar has a couple different types. Passive is just when there's no solar panels. It's just the sun shines in through the windows or skylights. That's our passive solar. We want active solar. We actually have a solar panel up that collects the sun and then converts it into electricity or heat. Geothermal that we talked about a little bit already. Geothermal, how is it used? Used for temperature control, using the heat of the earth to either heat or cool your house. Wind energy, of course, we can use wind turbines to collect the wind as it's blowing, and that generates electricity for us. And hydroelectric, we've got a river or flowing water runs over a big water wheel or through a turbine, typically turning, spinning, creating electrical energy. All right, we start talking about some different architectural plans. There are several as we start getting into it. We've been doing floor plans so far, but we might also consider a plot plan. If you're going to buy a house or buy a lot to build your house, this designates boundary lines like you see along the edge here. Where does your property begin and end? Where is the location of the house? Typically, you'd have like a square that represents your house. Locations of any other structures, if there's outbuildings like a shed or a shop or a garage, things like that. You might notice where there are driveways. Here's 64th Avenue. Here's a roadway, I guess, not necessarily a driveway, but you might have a driveway shown on there as well. And then maybe your sewer systems could be shown. But that designates boundary lines is the basic part of that, so you know what part of a neighborhood or a land you own. Next one is a foundation plan. Foundation plans designate the outside walls and some interior structure walls that support the construction. Okay, remember we talked about foundation. This shows where those heavy walls are that support the roof or the ceiling. Floor plan. Floor plan shows the design structure. This is what we've been working on so far. Floor plan is, I like to call it a bird's eye view. It's like you're looking straight down. If I was to take the room I'm in and just cut it off at about 4 or 5 feet above the floor, take the roof off and look down, that's what a floor plan gives us. We get to see things like load-bearing walls, non-load-bearing walls. We can see where we've got furniture. We can see where windows and doors, fixtures, things like that. Most common for what we'll be working on is our floor plan. Again, gives you as if you're flying over or standing over top of it and looking down. We also use something called elevation views in architectural plans. They are views of the structure from a given direction, normally something like north, south, east, or west. This is like as if you're driving by. Drive by the road in front of your house and you're looking to the north, that would be a north elevation view. Views the structure from a given direction, typically by either north, south, east, or west. Types of architectural plans you might consider. Also a 3D view gives what the structure or the house looks like, what our eye would typically see. So we can start seeing the depth and the perspective of the building. So we see maybe an elevation here, but also you can see that there's walls and roof line going back. So that kind of gives you a three-dimensional, more of a realistic look. This too might be one, as you're driving by in the car, you might say that's what I see as well. Okay. All right, other types of architectural plans. These are all of our system plans. We might have electrical system, mechanical, plumbing. It shows locations of things like where are the light switches, where are the walls, the windows, the plumbing, things like that. So that's all part of architectural plans as well. It would be our systems. Okay, they're like a road map. If you have a plumber come in and you have a leak in the floor, or you have a leak in somewhere, a wall's got water running out, they look at a plumbing plan to show where the plumbing lines are at. If you have an electricity problem, think of above us in our ceilings. Oftentimes there's a whole course of wires up there that run between all the lights. The electrician needs to know where that goes. The mechanical might be things like what blows the warm and cold air to keep us comfortable. Okay? Construction details, oftentimes it might show a zoomed in picture of how exactly we build a portion of a wall or a door, or where does a window goes. It helps the builders know how to construct some things. So if you start thinking about this, there's a number of careers that take place with the construction world. You think of contractors or carpenters that build. You have concrete masons that come in, put the foundations in, pour the concrete floors. You might have carpenters come in, build your walls, put in the doors. You might have electricians come in and wire your house. A plumber comes in and does the water, and then you might have a what we call HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning specialist, comes in and does the mechanical work. So there's a lot of different jobs that are related to architecture in the construction world. So this gives you an overview of the basic fundamentals of construction. We will go ahead and complete the worksheet based on this, and if you want to rewatch the video, or if you want to just read through the PowerPoint, those are options as well. So it gives you an overview, and now you know a little bit more about construction. Look forward to seeing your work, and we'll see you on the next video, where we'll be looking at room relationships, things like that. How do the rooms go, and why do they go where they go, things like that. So there you go. Have a good rest of the day, guys.